Three main skills you need to be a wholesaler. If we dial it all down, you need marketing skills, you need negotiating skills, and you need networking skills. We're essentially in a desperate situation, and desperate people kind of do desperate stuff. So if they do end up doing desperate stuff, I don't really take it personally. It does happen, right? So we're expecting that when we're dealing with them. I believe that having no capital was an obstacle, but it actually was one of the best things for me at the time, because I learned to operate without having capital. Not everything can be 100% virtual. Like, there definitely has to be somebody showing up, but then their time's also leveraged too, because we're also, the other members of the team are taking care of all the other virtual aspects, like the seller calls, the investor call.
Hello, people. Welcome to another episode of Real Estate Conversations with Harsh, a podcast by investors for investors. Today, we have a very well-known real estate investor. He started his real estate investing journey in 2018 and has done over 250 deals across Ontario since then. Here's the exciting part. Most of his deals are virtual wholesaling, virtual flipping, and virtual short-term rentals. He currently lives with his girlfriend and his pet. His name is Bowser, a cockapoo in Ontario. We'd like to welcome Michael Lee, but more famously known as, you might have heard in your emails, if you're in the real estate industry, you must have gotten an email from the 416 Homebuyer. Yes, we have the 416 Homebuyer guy today, the man himself, right? So we would like to welcome Michael Lee to the podcast. Welcome, Michael.
Harsh, thank you so much for having me on.
No problems at all. And so everyone who receives the 416 Homebuyer, if you're receiving any kind of deals from that email, it's him and his team who's sending you all those emails. So he's the one who has been finding those deals for you. So today you get to see him.
Yeah, I got to give a lot of credit to my team, though. It's not just me.
Yes, absolutely. So virtual, we are really excited to learn about virtual entails, especially on the wholesaling and flipping side, because you do it virtually, which is not going to the site and managing everything here, which is really good. But let's start by knowing when you came to Canada, your background has been, because until 2018, what were you doing? And after that, in the real estate industry, how has that been going for you?
Okay. I'm born in Toronto, born and raised in Toronto, and I kind of moved around various parts of the GTA as I was growing up, but mainly Scarborough, Ontario. And I think I realized from a very young age that I was a little bit different than the standard 9-to-5 employee style. I didn't really understand what was different at the beginning. So I tried to fit into the mold of being an employee, and it would always blow up within 4 to 6 weeks. So I would go through all these different jobs, and it didn't work out that well. Not because I was not able to work, but it just, working in the corporate environment, it wasn't for me, right? And when I was in my early 20s, I'd already been selling things on my own. I would order like rubber bands from China and just sell them to people, or I would get Jordans and sell them to people. So I was already kind of similar to who I am today. But when I was in my early 20s, I got introduced to full-time sales. I started out doing door-to-door, and within a short period of time, I actually became pretty decent at doing that. And I realized that I have a real passion for selling, and I have a real passion for working on performance rather than working per hour. And that's kind of where all the entrepreneurial genes started for me.
Yes.
I ended up working at a company that we were selling solar. I was there for several months. We did a very, very large sales campaign there. And I was part of a company, and I was one of the top sales leaders there. I got to witness the company literally growing from a small company into a medium size with like 50 and 60 people working there. And that was a great experience for me. Eventually, I went off on my own. I started my own solar business with a few partners, and I was the director of sales and marketing. And I started layering various skills that I already had. So I already had sales skills, and I started to learn about marketing as well. in order
Mm.
to grow that company. So I learned about online marketing. I learned a little bit about branding and also about direct mails. Fast forward to 2018, I was looking to get out of the solar industry and I was looking for something new. And I wanted an opportunity that was uncapped. I wanted something that I could grow. I could build a system that could work for me. And I had always been intrigued to real estate. At first, I was considering becoming an agent. Somebody I met told me, Mike, I know you don't want to be an agent. Trust me. You want to do something else. Maybe you might want to be an investor. So I ended up going to a real estate investing meetup and I meet someone that is doing a strategy called real estate wholesaling. And as soon as I found out what that person was doing, I remember like it was yesterday, we're at this meetup. There weren't a lot of people that showed up because it was raining. And so there's an expert talking about wholesaling houses. And he said that he got a condo in Mississauga for, I don't remember the price, but he got a condo in Mississauga and he wholesaled it in about 3 hours worth of work. And he made a $70,000 assignment fee.
Wow. 70,000. And you're saying it was in 2018?
That was, it was in 2018 that I went to that meetup.
Wow.
He was probably talking about a recent deal that he did at that time, right?
Yes.
So my jaw was basically on the floor. I was just like, all right, I'm all in on wholesaling. Whatever wholesaling is, I'm all in on it. And I'd heard of it before, but I didn't know you could do it in Canada. So literally the next day I was on Kijiji. I was calling literally everyone that had anything to do with the house. So even contractors, I was calling them and asking them if they have access to deals. I was calling realtors and asking them if they have access to off-market deals. And I knew that probably wasn't the best way to get started, but I knew I needed to develop experience.
Yes.
So about 3.5 weeks later, and I don't know, I had a lot of time on my hands. So this is full time on the phone calling people on Kijiji. I managed to get one deal done, my first deal.
Oh, wow.
I picked up a really rough house just north of Kingston. It had been abandoned for 20 years.
Oh, and you found out through Kijiji that it was abandoned, or was it the owner who was selling it, or what was the deal? Okay.
Correct. It's for sale by owner.
Okay.
So back then, I was trying to develop my skills. So I knew I couldn't underwrite deals that well. And if I tried, it would take me 3 or 4 days to underwrite one single deal.
Yes.
I knew that wasn't going to be effective for me. So I would just throw lowball offers back then without too much basis because I was still learning. So I was just offering this guy $50K for his house and he said yes. So I was like, whoa, he said yes. Then I call whatever investors I know at that time. I'm like, hey, this guy said yes to me. I think this is a deal. And I wholesaled it. That was how it all started. And about the next 6 months or so was a lot of learning curve for me. I was doing whatever I could to learn, and I was making a lot of mistakes, but I was learning. And within about 6 months, I'd done about 6 or 7 deals. And then from there on, I managed to do one deal where I bought a house. I got it appraised. So I got a house for 175 grand in Kingston. It got appraised for 275. Wow. And I got a mortgage broker to get me a 60% loan to appraised value. So I ended up getting a loan for about 195 grand, if I can remember correctly. And after fees, like mortgage fees and closing costs, I had about $7,000 or $8,000 credit check on closing. So I literally bought this deal with no money down. Wow. My first deal that I closed on. I was so nervous because I still never bought a house, closed on a house myself before that. Yes. But I managed to do this one and I was so nervous, but it was such an easy deal that we just did junk removal with the $7 grand.
Yes.
And then we threw it on the market and we sold it for 273. So
and just the junk removal, right?
Just junk removal.
Wow. And no cosmetic updates, no paints, nothing.
Literally nothing.
Wow.
And that was the start of me flipping. So I start my first couple flips. I'm layering skills now. I'm learning wholesaling. So now I understand marketing of how to get off market sellers.
Yes.
I understand how to negotiate with sellers. Now I figured out how to add some private money to it. By the
Yes.
time. And at the beginning, I didn't know rentals, so I just did junk removal on my first 2 deals. On my
Yes.
third flip, which was in Brampton, I wasn't flipping virtually yet.
Okay.
My third deal was in Brampton, and we did a cosmetic rental about 30K, 35K rental there.
Okay.
So I started learning new skills as I was going, and then
Yes.
it all progresses to where I'm at today, basically, right? So, yeah.
What an exciting story. What an exciting story. So 50,000 on the first deal. Well, that's where I was jumping, right? So we on your first deal that you got as a $50,000, if you were
That was
to
my
start
first flip, but I'd wholesaled about 6 or 7 prior to that, which weren't even that profitable, by the way. It was like 5 to 10K wholesale fees.
Oh, okay. Okay. Coming to your first deal, the first ever that you did, right?
Yes.
If you were to do it again, or if you were starting over again, what would you do different today now that you know so much? If you were there back in time again, right? What are the things that you would not do?
Okay. You know what? I think I made a lot of good moves there. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yes.
And I was building up my investors list, but I only had about access to about 40 or 50 investors at the time that I'd met.
Okay.
And I basically called the one that I knew was most likely to be able to close.
Yes.
His name's Luke Boyron, by the way. He's well known as a
Oh yeah. He has his own Luke
He does
Boyron.
his own wholesaling operation as well.
Yes.
So I called him specifically because, first of all, he was the guy that actually talked at that networking event. So he was the one who talked about his wholesale deal. That's number one. So he's the one who kind of, more or less told me about wholesaling. Number two, he's the guy who's most likely to be, out of the people I knew at the time, like, this guy's most likely to be able to close on it. And I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, I had never seen an agreement of purchase and sale before. So I called him. I said, hey, I think we have something here. I actually, at first I couldn't reach him. So I called someone on his team, and the person on his team was like, yeah, maybe you don't have something. Because I was calling them a lot. I didn't know what I was doing, right? It's kind of like, maybe you don't have something, but I'll let Luke take a look at it. And then Luke called me back about 5 or 10 minutes later. He's like, this is a deal. So we got to figure out how to do it. We got to get this under contract. And I basically did that with his assistant.
Okay.
And so if he wasn't involved on that deal, the chance that I might have screwed something up with the paper is probably pretty high.
Yes.
I would have at least need to pay a lawyer to put the paperwork together. But working with someone who already knows what they're doing, was a really good way for me to get started.
Yes.
And we have a huge buyers list, and we'll put out a deal to as many buyers as we can in order to get the best possible buyer with the best possible terms and the best possible price. But it wasn't about that at the beginning.
It was more about earning.
It's about learning, because I'm happy enough that I made a few bucks doing it, right? It wasn't a crazy wholesale fee, but
absolutely,
I'm happy enough that I made a few bucks, and now at least I know what I'm doing well enough that I can do it on my own. So that experience was golden, and I definitely, I don't think I would change it, to be honest with you.
Yes, no, there's no need to change. Wow. Okay. Well, not everyone can have that kind of a start, right? You were, I think, because of your persistence that you were calling them again and again, you kind of got in touch with them, and that's how you started, which is really good. Wow,
I'm definitely a persistent person, for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, so now on an average, and jumping fast forward to now, on an average, how many offers? I would say, because I think it's more of a volume game, right? Where you put in how many offers converts, but how many offers do you generally put in every week or every 2 weeks, or your team combined?
I'm going to get into some kind of a detail about this.
Sure.
And I'm not, if you ask me to explain too much of it, I'm not going to get too crazy explaining the details about it. But so I have a goal right now that we want to wholesale 100 deals in a year. And for me to do that, I've extrapolated that we need about 15 people calling us per day. Now, it might really,
For
the number
selling
might
or for
really be
buying?
12, it might really be 15, but I know that if we're right about there, that's like the sweet spot for us. Okay.
Okay.
And the majority of leads that we get, let's say if we get 5 leads, probably one of them is actually like a qualified seller for wholesaling.
Yes.
The reality is the majority of them should probably work with a realtor. So
Yes.
in the first couple of minutes of speaking to a seller, we determine if this is a legitimate, motivated seller with a distressed house and if they have some equity to work with, because we're going to make a low offer. They need to have some equity for that to work.
Yes.
So probably about 4 out of 5 sellers that call us get thrown into the realtor bucket immediately. We try to refer them out if we can to other licensed agents in their respective local markets. And then for the legitimate motivated sellers, let's say if we have 15 leads, we're probably making offers on like maybe a third of the people that call in.
Okay. So around 5.
Correct.
Okay.
And so we're probably making about, I don't know, about 20 offers a week right now, 20 to 25.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And how, so coming back to that 100 a year target that you have right now.
Correct.
How many deals did you do last year?
Okay. So, man, that's a really good question. I think we completed about 65 to 70.
Wow.
And we ended up getting about 85 to 90 under contract. So some of them, some deals that you get under contract, because we do virtual, we may not have enough information about the property. So we get it under contract and sometimes we'll go there after and the numbers just won't work, right?
Yes.
So there may be some details we didn't know about the property. Maybe it's got structural issues and there's an extra 50K involved. The seller may not want to relinquish that extra 50K on the purchase price. So some of the deals we get under contract don't work out, but the majority of them do. So we, at this point in time, we built a strong enough system that if we're going to put a deal under contract, we can say with some certainty that we could probably wholesale it. We have with some certainty that we know with some certainty that we can do that. And number 2, I would do deals, like I would try to get deals at a price that I would feel relatively comfortable putting them under contract myself and closing on them too. Because I want to be able to give certainty to a seller. I mean, we are providing them kind of a service as well.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. No, and I agree, completely agree. That's good. Okay. So anyone who would like to start wholesaling now, right? Fresh, has no knowledge about real estate or has a little bit of knowledge that goes around in news with friends and family, right? Not an expert in real estate, I would say, or not an intermediate, a beginner level real estate person. Okay. What would be your tip or advice to them to get started? And if they want to do wholesaling or any kind of flipping or anything.
Okay. So are you asking someone wants to get started in wholesaling specifically? Wholesaling
or flipping?
Okay. Let's just say wholesaling for now.
Yes, wholesaling.
Okay, there's 3 main skills you need to be a wholesaler. If we dial it all down, you need marketing skills, you need negotiating skills, and you need networking skills.
Yes.
Okay. So the marketing, it's a marketing business. My business doesn't work unless we get X number of leads per day inbound. Because I need to get the sellers that are motivated and they actually have distressed properties and distressed personal situations.
Okay.
If we're doing this, trying to do this on market with like regular retail level houses, it's just not going to work. So you need to have strong marketing skills. Secondly, once the leads actually come in, you need to have negotiating skills to be able to get them under contract at a price that works. And there's a lot of things happening. Like it's a pretty wild business in a sense where you're going to have sellers that, they'll tell you their house is one thing, but it's really another. And you need to be able to adjust on the fly.
Absolutely. Always happens like that. Always happens. Nobody shows their the bad part or the weak part of the deal especially the sellers, right? They only show the upside or the better side of the deal so that it sells.
Absolutely. And you know what? I try to be as understanding to them as possible. Like first of all, they usually won't even end up in a situation like that unless there's been a series of bad events in their life. So they're calling you and you're like their last resort. They're not just calling you for fun.
No, I understand. Yes.
And they're essentially in a desperate situation, and desperate people kind of do desperate stuff. So if they do end up doing desperate stuff, I don't really take it personally. Yes. It does happen, right? So
yes,
we're expecting that when we're dealing with them. So you need to be able to negotiate with them in a way that's understanding, but at the same time helps you to achieve your goal. Like you're doing this as a business. So as an investor, you're not buying properties for any reason other than to make profits. So you have to be able to negotiate well enough you can get deals that are good enough. Thirdly, it's networking. So and networking plays in with flipping too. So if you're getting started, you likely don't have a ton of money on you. And even if you do have a ton of money, you can spend it very quickly doing marketing.
Yes.
So what you need to be able to do in terms of networking, as a wholesaler, you need to meet investors that can buy your deals.
Yes.
The way you're going to do that is by being good at networking. And just because somebody knows you doesn't mean they're necessarily going to do business with you.
Yeah. So, and I've seen that as when
and trust you in order to
So I've seen that, and in the starting when I got my license, it was absolutely the same. Like I thought I got the license, everyone who knows me, who's my friend, now there is no one else in their life who they'll deal with. It's me, because now I am licensed. And that was the biggest, I would say, a reality check, that no one transacted with me at that point in time when I got the license, right? They were not interested in me at that time, even though they were my friends and everything. But then I realized that people would work with you. Like, knowing is one part, but they should be able to trust you in that particular business, right? So when that trust is now there, now they are coming back towards me, which is good.
Absolutely. Now, as a wholesaler, I will say this. Now, because we're specialized in wholesaling distressed assets.
Mm-hmm.
We do have all these disclaimers on our marketing packages. And then we also have, whenever we assign a deal, we're saying, hey, you're buying this as is, where is. The part of the reason is because I can't certify and warranty everything. Like I just mentioned, I don't even know I can't even verify what the seller's telling me is true half the time, right? So there has to be, for that reason, the person who's transacting with you on the investor side, you need the right people to work with.
Yes.
And there has to be this mutual trust. Now, today, I didn't realize when I started out how important this was. But today, where we're at in business, 5 years later, about a third of our deals are actually wholesale to repeat buyers. So we've actually set up a system where there's investors that are looking for deals and they keep coming back to us. So in order for us to do business now, it's less difficult than it was at the beginning. We have some kind of momentum now.
Yes, so, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
That's just how important networking is, right? And then if you're flipping, it's not only to meet investors so they can buy deals, it's also to meet them so that you can create partnerships.
Yes. Absolutely.
So that was part of what I did when I started. Some of the investors I met as a wholesaler, they said, well, when you find properties to flip, why don't we, instead of wholesaling, if you see some potential there, I can provide capital to the deal and we can partner and we can flip it together. Now, when I started, I forgot about this part. My credit wasn't great and I literally had no money. So, I was trying to figure out how to buy houses on my own. And when you're able to partner with other people, they can bring certain things to the table that you don't have, right? So I believe that having no capital was an obstacle, but it actually was one of the best things for me at the time, because I learned to operate without having capital by meeting people and bringing in partners. So it was probably the best thing I could have. It was better than if I had $250,000 when I started, to be honest, because I wouldn't have tried to do all that.
Yes. Wow. Okay. Now coming to the virtual part. So you are doing everything virtually,
Yes.
almost virtually, like not even visiting these properties, or I would say like 10-20% of the times you go there, but most 80% of the time it's virtual.
Yes. So just to explain the virtual part, like right now, I'm in Nashville.
See?
We have
And
4
they're
deals
getting
under
done.
contract that we're wholesaling right now.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, we'd like to learn, and our audience, like for our audience benefits, kind of an educational thing now. What is it in virtual and how are you managing everything so virtually? Like I understand marketing is mostly online nowadays, which is one aspect, but just doing online marketing cannot manage the whole system. Like I know there's a process and a system for wholesaling, but you can't just manage it completely online offhands, as per me. But you are doing that.
Well,
so
when people say virtual flipping and virtual wholesaling and virtual investing, I mean, it means that you can be virtual, but like certain parts of it, there's people going. A flip doesn't happen virtually. People go to the house, obviously, right? So, but it doesn't have to be you. And even if it is you, it doesn't have to be you all the time. So when I was learning business, I was doing door to door, and at a certain point, I actually
door to door knocking.
Door knocking. That's right. So I did some of the door to door sales. I did as door to door merchant processing, which is selling debit machines.
Yes.
I did solar door to door, and if you do that, even if you're good, basically there's going to be a limit of how much you can work a day.
Yes.
So your income becomes capped. The only way to scale that up is to figure out how to leverage yourself. And I found the same thing with virtual wholesaling and virtual flipping. So when I started wholesaling, primarily I would go to the properties myself.
Yes.
But I could only do a couple deals a month like that. So eventually we started getting a little bit bigger. What I did, the way that it's done is you put systems in place.
Yes.
Put technology in place, and you put people in place.
Okay. So somebody else is actually visiting the properties for you and doing all those photos and everything from your team.
At this point, yes. So what I did was we created several, and this doesn't happen immediately, right? Like it takes some time.
Yes.
But I eventually started documenting all the things I was doing in the business.
Yes.
So I have documented scripts of how we intake seller leads. I've documented scripts of how we make offers to sellers. And if they say, it's like, there's like a tree, basically. It's like, if they say this, then this or this can happen, respond this way. And it doesn't have to be me on the phone talking to sellers. That's one. Two, the walkthrough, for example.
Yes.
Documented. Okay. So for example, I got my phone here.
Yes.
It doesn't happen perfectly every time, but I'm going to just tell you right now. So we've realized that when we're doing walkthroughs for properties, it looks much better in landscape mode.
Yes.
Portrait mode.
Yes, it does.
It looks even better when it's in wide angle mode.
Yes, and it spreads to the entire screen when somebody is viewing. In this mode, it just remains like this in vertical mode.
Correct. So then what we did was we documented all that. Okay, go to a property, do it in landscape mode, do it in wide angle mode. I want a picture from each end of the room, and I want the camera to be at about this height. I guess you're in a podcast, so it's just below chest height. So you can see the ceiling and see the floor.
Yes.
And so we started figuring out these little things, and then what you can end up doing, it's like McDonald's. You have $1 billion company, and it's being run by 16-year-olds. If you can document your systems good enough, you can literally get anyone to do your walkthrough. So we just did a deal up in Timmins. I'm traveling down here in the States. We just find a guy up there. We can pay him a couple $100 to follow our system. And then you can do it exactly the same as if I was there.
And who are these guys? Like photographers or who?
We like to have someone on our team do it primarily, but if it's far out, we're confident enough in our system that we can hire either a real estate agent or a photographer. It doesn't even have to be someone that's a specialist in any specific area. They just have to be coachable enough to follow what we've outlined for them.
Okay.
Yeah. And so sometimes it's just like a kid, like, like 19 or 18 years old, and we'll send them out and they just follow it and they do it. And it works out okay.
Okay. So in a gist, if we'd say that either you are doing it or your team is doing it, once you have your big enough team and they have the systems and processes in place, more likely it is virtual for the person who owns the business. So in this case, which is you, right? So you can be right now, like you're in Nashville, you can be in any part of the world, but the team is constantly working, the leads keep coming in, and the team continues to talk. And when there is some real need, that's when you jump in, and you probably might do it yourself, go there yourself. But that's really like maybe 10% or 20% of your whole business, right?
Correct. Now, I don't try to make it so there's some people that they want to make a completely passive business where they don't even talk to people. I'm not like that.
Yes.
I'm on the phone all day long. I'm not the kind of guy who would never go to a walkthrough. Like I still go to walkthroughs.
Yes.
I just did a walkthrough. I've been doing walkthroughs here, even in the States, even like even if I'm virtual right now, I'll still do walkthroughs on my own by myself anyways, just for fun. So
scooping out the areas, eh?
Yeah. But what I try to do is, even with my team, with the individual members, I try to get them to be able to do it as virtual as possible too, because what I'm trying to set up is a system where everyone's time is leveraged by the other members of the team as well as we can. So my acquisition guy, a lot of his work is actually, he's just sitting on a laptop and just calling people from his apartment. My disposition manager, she lives in Montreal. So she doesn't, it's completely virtual for her too. Not everything can be 100% virtual. Like there definitely has to be somebody showing up, but then their time's also leveraged too, because the other members of the team are taking care of all the other virtual aspects, like the seller calls, the investor calls, all that.
Wow. That's a great system that you have put in place in 5 years. Wow. I do understand. We've seen a lot of emails from 416 home buyers. A lot of emails, a lot of really good deals. It's all across Ontario. And you focus only in Ontario right now, or and states, I guess. Right?
Okay, so this is kind of exciting for me to talk about right now. This is what I'm doing right now. So about a year and a half ago, my girlfriend and I, we were talking about possibly moving to the States, but not full time, maybe just a few months a year.
Okay.
So, and the idea here is that like we're investigating, if we can do it in Ontario, can we do it other places, investing wise? Can we buy deals in other places as well? And not only that, but escape the Canadian winter. So I've done a deal actually in New Brunswick a couple of years ago. It was a flip, 100% virtual. So that proved, I actually made a lot of mistakes on that flip, but it proved that it can be done in my mind. And I've done some virtual flips that were like north of Sudbury, I've done a couple in Sudbury and I've done a couple north of Sudbury. I've literally never even been to Sudbury. So over time, my confidence and belief in the possibility, if it's possible, is increasing. So a couple months ago, a seller called us and they said, hey, I want to sell my property. And we don't even, we just looked up the tax assessed value and then we subtracted from there because we don't know that market that well, but she accepted our offer. Just like when I started in real estate, right? I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here, just make an offer. So she accepted the offer and we put it under contract. We started utilizing our virtual system right away. And it's so far, Alberta's like the other side of the country. So now we're really putting our system through a pressure test. Can it still work? And we got through the entire system. We got the walkthrough done. We got the negotiations done. We made connections with local realtors so we could get all the pricing of the, find out what's going on in the market. We got the real estate lawyers that we didn't even know before. And we got all the way to the point where we were getting offers on the property to wholesale it. We got a few offers, but they weren't quite as high as I wanted. We ended up letting the deal go but I actually could have closed on it myself and it would have been an okay deal. So
okay.
For me, that's a proof of concept. I'm not that interested in the Alberta market personally, but because that gave me that proof of concept, now what I'm looking at is I'm actually looking at doing that same virtual model in Ohio at the moment.
Oh, wow. And coming for the virtual part, so I just noted that you did a deal in Sudbury when you're talking about the north of Sudbury too, and you have not even visited, and that was a flip, right? So my question was, how do you find
3 flips in Sudbury area?
Wow. So how do you find the right people? I mean, yes, I do get that somebody can go there, click the photos, or the realtor can go there, look at the property, tell you. But the actual thing happens after that, right? How do you find the right people, including the general contractor who will do the right flip? And how do you make sure that the work is being done right? Because contractor can do a good cost and send it to you, where let's say it's costing 50 or 60,000, he will tell you that, okay, yeah, it's costing 60,000. You okay that, but how do you make sure that work is actually being done as per your requirement or as per your quality standards, right? That's where I'm going with this.
Okay. So I'm going to speak to this, and I just want to preface this. This year, I did something new. I actually I created a partnership where I'm partnered with the renovation business, somebody that I've been working with for a very long time, for several years. And that partnership allows me to essentially renovate my own projects and also renovate other investors' projects. Okay. But that's new for me. So I'm going to speak to it as if I don't have that company at the moment. Like I'm an investor. I don't have a renovations business.
2 years before, like let's go 2 years behind, like 2021.
Okay. So, all right. When I look at renos, you're looking at controlling the following 3 variables. You're looking at quality. You're looking at like quality of the workmanship. You're looking at budget, and you're looking at timeline.
Yes.
So the first one I'll look at is budget. We're going to hopefully get 2 or 3 quotes before we even close on the property. So we'll send in a bunch of contractors. We'll tell them what we're looking to do. They're going to come back to us. I will send people from my team. So I have a project manager on my team that handles all they do is do flips. And they go on site as well on a weekly basis.
Okay.
I would not recommend flipping virtually if you need somebody that's able to go there.
From your team.
Yes, or somebody is very trusted. So what I learned when I started flipping virtually, I started out 1 hour away from Toronto, then I went 2 hours and 3 hours, and I actually ended up going all the way to New Brunswick for a flip. Personally speaking, and maybe there's some other people that can control it a bit better than me, but what I noticed is the farther out it goes, the more hands-on people you need to look at the property.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So at the beginning, I was too relaxed about it. And when you're too relaxed about it, too many things can go wrong. So my system now, every week, somebody has to go to the property internally. Okay. They're going to do a full video walkthrough and look through all the progress that's been made. They're gonna note all the deficiencies that are there as well. And then what we have WhatsApp groups where we can either do live video chats about what's happening, or we can instantaneously upload the footage as well. And in WhatsApp, you can also draw over the footage.
Yes.
You can say, hey, I like this, I don't like that. You can make all these notes, and it's shared with a group of people right there on the spot. So that's mainly how I can do it. I can flip virtually. I still now today, so I started going wider and wider in terms of geography for flipping. Yes. And then I started bringing it a bit closer, because I realized that getting people that you can trust to go so far out is not that efficient for time.
Yes.
If I was going to do a very, very far away flip today, and by the way, I like Ohio because I can fly there in 1 hour.
Yes.
So I can still go. I can literally bring someone from my team and fly them there, right?
Yes.
It's not the same everywhere you go. So if it was very far away, let's say I find a property and I want to flip in Tennessee, and
Yes.
it's a big flip, big rental, full rental. I would probably partner with someone local
Yes.
so
Okay.
that they can be the boots on the ground and they have
Yes.
skin in the game.
Okay. Okay.
Does that make sense?
It's mostly about partnering up and collaborating with more and more people to save on time and expertise. Like also because they are local there, right? They would also know the general contractor. They'd have the
Yeah.
relations which you can leverage, right? And since they also now have skin in the game, they would want the project to go completely smooth, right?
Correct.
And not rip you apart because they are now involved as well.
Correct. And getting back to how do you work with the right contractors? So I set up, basically, we set up like a set of rules. They have to sign an agreement with us that they're going to follow our rules. And then like, basically we would, and that's how I set up my rental company as well. So my rental company follows the same rules I would make a GC follow if I was doing work with them.
Okay.
And so there's milestone payments. You don't get paid until you've showed progress, right?
Yes.
And you need to prove that you showed progress. So how do you prove it? You send a video with everything, like showing that it's been done. And I just feel like that's the best way to do business with contractors. You got to protect yourself because a lot of contractors are very difficult people.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And most of them are. And I found that the people who produce quality work and are referred and are trusted in the market, they, no matter what, they'll do that work. They'll have no problem signing it and doing the work the way you want it. But the people who do not have those intentions, they will make it every possible reason to not sign it or not get into a contract where they are liable or they are being held accountable for something towards a process or towards a system.
There needs to be accountability, right? And I think even now that I told you I have a renovation business, I'm okay to be held accountable, but I want the people I work with to be held accountable too. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, that was great information, and today was a great session. I just reviewing any questions now, and that was phenomenal. Incredible work that you're doing and the systems and processes that you have set up, and some really good advice and tips for our viewers and listeners. Where if somebody wants to work with you, do you only wholesale or do you also do joint ventures with other people or use other people's money and make them a profit, or how does the business?
I definitely love to do joint ventures. So if somebody's listening in and they want to get involved on some of our flips, we do buy and holds as well. We specialize in for the buy and hold side, we specialize in short-term rentals.
Okay.
I do raise capital for deals, a lot of partnerships. So if somebody's listening and they'd like to reach out about that, you can find me on Instagram at official Michael Lee.
Okay. Yeah. And 416homebuyer.ca is the website, right?
And if you're looking for deals in Ontario that you'd like to buy for your own flipping or your own buy and hold, definitely would love to connect with you that way as well. We have a form on our website. The link is 416home, HOME, buyer.ca.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. It was really a pleasure talking to you today. It was really insightful into some virtual wholesaling and flipping, which was new for me as well. So maybe I'll use some of those strategies for my business too, right? The people that I have interviewed over the past few weeks since the start of this podcast, there's one common theme that has appeared is collaboration. So people who can collaborate and work and leverage with others are the people who are successful in their businesses.
I agree with that 100%. Like if you don't have the right people around you, nothing works. Period.
Yeah, nothing works. Yes. All right, Michael. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your time for today. And thank you for making to the show.
Thank you very much for having me as a guest. It was an absolute blast. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.